All right, so I guess I'm back. I guess I'm back. My son said he called me by accident, and lesson learned. See, now I got to find a way to turn stuff off because when you're using a webcam, which I was, now I got to start from scratch. What were we talking about? We were talking about. I will um go back to my show notes real quick. So you guys can follow up with any further questions. I'm back. Thanks, George. As am I. Um, Follow up with any further questions, but I do remember me talking about. We were talking about where stuff is manufactured. We talked about. I think some other people had some other questions. It's gonna take a minute for me to get all the notes back because I will refer. Will a 212 bottleneck 2i2 bottleneck a setup? It depends on the music that you're doing. Um, Again, if you're recording everything in at 24-bit, 48 kilohertz, if you're coming back out and going back in to a recorder, coming back out, if you know you're mastering for iTunes, you won't have that problem. But sometimes the converters in smaller interfaces, you get um my wife just chimed in. Hi. Or my daughter too. Hey dad, it's Audie. Good job. Thank you, baby. Thank you, sweetheart. Now let me get back to the business of the people. Thank you, sweetie. If you use a nice mic, then run it through a nice program. Yeah. The front end is everything in recording. You know, the front end is everything. If you have a decent front end, you're gonna be fine all the way throughout. I don't care. It doesn't make a difference. But if the preamps aren't up for the job that you're presenting it at the moment, then you might have a problem. You might have an overarching problem. So I will wait for a few more people to um to chime in, if you will. And I'm trying to get a hold of the previous notes that or questions that were presented to me before. And processing video is telling me it's processing it. So, and I really apologize about that, folks. I mean, I had no idea. Well, I should have known. I mean, you don't plan for the unexpected, but I should have known. Bro, comments are what? I don't know. What's this? Let's see what he had to say. So let's go. I'll have to review that afterwards. Let's go. What comments are? Okay, let's go to the comments. I just are disabled for the live. Huh? No, no, no. If you are watching, please tune back in. Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, man. Had family members calling me, but yeah. Thanks for that heads up, man. I appreciate it. I really do. And my daughter chimed in to wish me well. That was nice of her. But I gotta tell people, stop calling me. See, I got, I'm one of these who has their Mac computer synced across all devices, and I had no idea that FaceTime would well, you would think, I had no consideration for the fact that FaceTime would interrupt the stream. And then I got this alert that the stream is unstable for obvious reasons. But further questions with regards to putting together your first 500 series preamps, or someone had asked about using the Behringer in a studio situation, but they didn't tell me the type of music. that they would be recording through it. I mean, a lot of this equipment that is coming out looks great, but what many should keep in mind are the specs of the equipment that you are buying. You know, you can't ignore the specification of, of the equipment that you're buying. I don't care whether it's a mixing console or a preamp. You can't ignore the specs, because if the specs say that you're going to lose quality at a certain point in time in the system diagram, then you have to take that into consideration as to how that's going to affect the sound that you're trying to capture. You know, it's really that simple. So don't ignore looking at a specification sheet when you're buying something. And here's another caveat: if a company does not take the time to put out a decent, and I don't care whether it's Warm, Heritage, or any of the new jacks, Lewitt, if a company does not take out the time to put out the specification for the equipment that they are trying to sell, then don't buy it, because that means all this information that you may need to make an informed decision is hidden from you. And the most important one is the signal to noise ratio. You know, you need to know what that is in order to know, how far is this piece of equipment allowing me to get above the noise floor? Because if the spec on the equipment is 65 dB, is signal to noise ratio, maybe 65 was good back in the days of AM radio, but we're in a in a digital age where XM and Sirius XM is, digital and satellite radio. The quality is 10 times better. So if you're recording your material in a substandard way sonically, you can expect to have a greater sonic quality if you didn't put it in the initial stages, that being your preamplification. So keeping those things in mind when you're making your purchases. Questions? I am going to get into really quick. I don't know how many of you tuned in the beginning. What I was saying, I had several clients cancel last week out of concern, and rightfully so. I didn't hold it against them. The large project that I was mentioning in my last live stream was placed on hold for the sake of the client and those that were associated, because it was on such a large scale. Those that were associated with the project might have been placed in some measure of jeopardy health-wise had they gone forward with it. So it makes sense for them to have pulled back just for the moment, for the sake of the masses that would have been involved. And it limits my liability, limits my exposure to maybe those involved in the project. And they say an ounce of prevention is a pound of cure. So if I can mitigate certain things by not being in contact with a massive amount of people at that one time, then it's going to be better for the whole, then so be it. Okay, here's another question. I'm thinking of a 6-unit for multi-purpose podcast, vocal, YouTube, pre-gate, FET comp, optocomp, reamping, for the monitoring reverb. Wow. Oh, okay. I got it for a 500 series unit and avoid latency. Yeah. With the newer I can't make a comment about the former API, racks, the portables, 500 series units, but the newer ones allow you to daisy chain like that. So think about it. You could pretty much put together any type of setup you want, you know, and mix, match, swap them in, swap them out based on whatever it is that you're going for. So yeah, I mean, the sky is the limit with stuff like that. And it's even said that some people actually put together API channel strips based on the compressor, the 512, the EQs, the graphic or the parametric EQs, the 550, I think it is, that they have out by API. So the sky becomes the limit as to whatever component you want to mix and match if you're using a 500 series rack. So I'd say go for it, man. Because it's going to create a sound for you that's unique to you. Think about it. Think about it. I mean, whatever components you put in that chain is forming a sound that maybe people will hire you just for, because that's your sound. They don't have to know how or what's interfaced with what. All these units running in succession make your sound. So when people are hiring you, they're hiring you for that purpose. So yeah, that can be done. Daisy chaining them one after the other like that to create your own channel strip is, yes, definitely a good idea. How do you have your patch bay connection? Mixer engineer asked. Normal, although it's about to get a major redo because of the way I'm starting to work again, more outside of the box. But what if you're asking from a general standpoint, I'll use 4 fingers on each hand. The ins and outs of all the sends are coming to the returns. In the back of the patch bay, there's a electronic connection that even if there's no patch cable in the front, they maintain a connection. What you want, if you're a person who has to move fast and quick and in a hurry, you want this connection. Why? Because once that connection is made, like for instance, the first 4 channels of the inputs of the interface are connected to the the outputs of the interface are connected to the inputs of the first 4 at the bottom, which are the receives of the API. So let's just say you want to jump back and forth between preamps, A being them. The only thing you have to do, because everything is normal, is in Pro Tools set up the session and set up your I/O grid to reflect that patch bay. So you don't like the way that sounds? It's as easy as swapping one mic in, swapping one mic out, changing the channel here, bam, you're done. You don't have to physically go and start randomly patching stuff all over the place because your connections are all normaled to one another, ins and outs. So I have my first 8 channels of the 96, the outputs of the preamps going into the inputs of the interface. So the same thing with the panels on the wall. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Panel 1 is the first input of the API. Panel 2, second. Panel 3, and so on and so on and so forth. Like that. It's for simplicity's sake, and it allows you to just to quickly make changes. Because when folks are looking at the clock, time is money. They ain't got no time for you to be going back and back in the rack. I'll be with you in a minute. No, they don't have time for that. You got to have your stuff so that you get in, out, in, out, in, out quick. And how you do that, that's what the patch bay is going to do for you. And if you have to patch stuff in randomly, it makes it a job easier for you. How many compressors should I have in my studio, and what do I advise? Alicia compressor. You're welcome. Mix engineer said thank you. Most definitely, man. Anytime. How many compressors should you have? I think you should have one of each. I don't, because I can't afford it. The stuff that I like, in other words. So I'd have rather have the best. But here's some advice. Thanks to our friends at Warm Audio and Clark Technic, you now have clones release. But here's the four that you really need. For basses, guitars, some vocals, you need some sort of 1176 or a VCA bass compressor like a DBX. Something of DBX 165, 166s, they sound good. You need an opto, you know, an opto like the Clark Technic is great, as well as the WA2A. Those sound outstanding in certain circumstances. But know this: opto compressors react differently. They're a little bit slower, you know, and it may not give you what you're looking for in a particular circumstance. That's why you need a VCA based, you need a FET, you need an opto, as well as in some cases, a diode bridge compressor like the Neves, you know. But the most popular ones are VCA based, and now that Warm and all these other people are cloning them, the FET as well as the opto, you know. But each of them have characteristics, okay? So you got to keep those things in mind, you know, when you're purchasing. If you have the budget, buy one of each. Buy one of each, you know, and then you have the ability to sample what's going to work best on what. You'll know, you know. I only know two dial bridge compressors, Golden Age and the Heritage has a new one out. The successor, I think it's called. You know, but dial bridge compressors, man, they react. They're like these valleys, man. Like back in the day, they did the gate X and the keep X. They have a reaction that's like probably quicker than what you prefer. You know, so it's going to take some judicious tweaking on your part and knowledge of how to properly set it so that you can get the maximum from it. Because um, I got to admit, even with the valleys that I used to use back in the day, you know, you can't get heavy handed in terms of like a twisting the knobs like crazy, you know, because it's going to give you a reaction that you might not care for. You know, so dial bridges may be the last that I would advise. First and most affordable VCA, followed by the opto and the FET type compressors. So Heritage, okay, they sound so good to me. Yeah, I mean Heritage. Listen, I mean they're copying some of the best out there, the Neves. You know, so you really can't beat the quality of what they're making. You know, if that's the sound you're going for, if you can afford to buy an AMS Neve, was it 609? I think it is, or 30, whatever the model is, the actual Neve one, you buy it. Heritage put out an affordable one. You know, so everyone's choice may change and vary. Now, forgive me, I'm looking at the comments. I'm getting a whole lot of comments. People talking about they're reconnecting. So yeah, you know, your mileage, as they say, may vary. And let's see, Heritage, okay, they sound suddenly. Yeah, you know, some compressors, man, are aggressive. Man, listen to the early music by the group The System. Listen to this cut by them called Modern Girl. They recorded it at what's the studio on? Oh man, what's in Sigma Sound? Oh, not Right Track. They were right upstairs, and I could see in 1600 Broadway. I forget the name of the studio, but that's when I first heard the those valleys, and the aggression of the compressor was like, I mean, it nails it so quick, and it holds it. It has a character that's like unique to Valley International, and Unique Recording had a lot of the Valley International Valley people, or well, Valley International before they became Valley Audio, had a lot of their stuff as well. So yeah, it has a very modern girl. Yeah, I love a modern girl. I love a modern girl. That song has a very, very aggressive sound. Very aggressive. So if you want that, there's a whole lot of modern day versions of it that you could probably achieve with some judicious tweaking of the attack and the release times of, the 1176 type of compressor, or even maybe the dial bridge compressors for that matter. You could probably get that sound, but it has to be a sound that you want. Other than that, it's gonna be like, this is a bit much. You know. So I have to thank you. How many compressors you have? We'll start to how many compressors? Yeah. Oh, would the investment in the Elisa compressor can help for most of the job? From what I saw, those I've never used the Elisa compressors, but I am impressed by what their technology stands for. You know, um, I wish, because most people don't have the budgets to go out and buy one of everything, myself included. But what I could do back in the day that one can't do now is, you used to be able to go to these pro audio shops and sit down and patch stuff in and out and spend the day. If you're spending your money, places like Dale Pro Audio had a studio with all this stuff set up so you can demo it. And like I said, it's your ears will know if something is meeting your expectation, and if it's not, then you don't buy it. But at least you didn't have to, cart the thing all the way home, plug it in, realize it's not for you, and then box it back up and take it all the way back. So that's where there's a problem. I know Sweetwater has a studio on their campus, but that's for their use. How is that serving the consumer who is not in Indiana? It's not. So it's a fine line for the person that, they want to be able to sample all this stuff, and the only way they can do it is if they go to a local studio that they know has the unit and spends a day there or books some time there and do a session using the unit, and then realizing, this is for me or it's not. It's really tough, man, in today's market. It's really tough. So Golden Age, and they have a dial bridge compressor. If they do, that's news to me. It really is news to me. If there was be one company that I wouldn't trust, it would be Golden Age, though. I'm gonna be honest with you. After that experience with that live recording, nope, burnt once, twice shy, man. Because like I said, you playing with somebody else's money. If it's your money, different story. But if it's client money and your stuff is failing on a client's time, that's when you are about to not be hired again. And that's a risk you can't run if that's your livelihood. You can't. I can't find the video, but you worked with this amazing female vocalist on one of your videos. I think during a product review. Do you know what I'm talking about? I need to follow her. Was it? If you're talking about Melody Ray, I'm trying to or Dion Blaze. It's been quite a few, But if you're referencing a video that I did, it was B Melody. Yeah, she just did a gig the other day at Dizzy's with Lakeisha Benjamin, who is a alto saxophonist in New York. Yeah, she's very much in demand vocalist, highly demanded. She's like Ayana George, who is another. If you get a chance, look her up. Ayana's, I mean, God, it's like you hearing an angel sing. These girls, they can sing, man. They get in this. You know, if you need to hire, and Melody does remote sessions as well. So if you need to hire her for background purposes, she has a mobile setup in her studio in her place. She's very highly demanded background vocalist. And I mean, I work with some really talented people, and that's coming out of when I used to work with the group, the East Coast Inspirational Singers, and in there, Latasha Jordan, another killing vocalist. Sandra Huff, I worked with for many years. Sandra Huff is, I mean, these people can sing their tails off. Barry Parker, uh, um, um, John Stanley, who is Patti LaBelle's music director, is another killing vocalist. Terrence Talley, you know, they sing with Patti LaBelle. These people can sing, man. So I've worked with quite a bit, yeah. But Melody is she reminds me of what's the girl from TLC, Left Eye. Has that type of that contralto type voice. And Ayana is just a pure, and like a Fela James who sang with Alicia Keys. Fela, I hired her a lot on a Dolores Bowman record, and Fela's a pure soprano, but Ayana has this range, man, and she's doing this off the Broadway show, I think the Michael Jackson thing right now, but her range is ridiculous and her control, sick. These are people that you don't have to, you know what I mean? They got such great dynamic range with their ability to sing. Is you could put any mic in front of them, they're gonna sound great on it. But there's a litany of them. There's so many great vocalists. I mean, in New York that you could grab a hold of. I mean, the list from jazz to pop to rock, endless. You know, but if you're talking about the girl in the video, it would probably be Melody Ray is her name. Very talented singer. Look up. She's on Facebook. She's probably on Instagram. You can follow her definitely on Lakeisha Benjamin, who is I think she's a Mac Avenue recording artist, Mac Avenue the jazz label, but she just did some work with Lakeisha Benjamin a couple of days ago. So definitely somebody to look at and watch. And plus, like I said, she does remote sessions. So somebody you want to hire, that's the girl you call. Melody Ray, yes, Ray. I'm gonna have to rewatch later to note all these names. Yes. I mean, um, a good jumping point if any of you are looking to hire quality musicians or especially background demo singers in New York, there are a ton of them. I would say reach out to Terrence Talley of the East Coast Inspirational Singers, and he will be able to give you some very good references. These people can sing, and a lot of people are looking for work, you know, and they're quality folk. Um, and you get a chance to demo these people and see what they're about, you know. But Terrence would be a good connection. Look up East Coast Inspirational Singers, and you'll be able to reach out to him, and he could refer you, you know, because he's the director of that group, and a good friend of mine for over 20 some odd years, and very talented vocalist. These people travel all over the world. They're hired, but they sing some of the every time. Um, Patti LaBelle has reserved them as her go-to gospel group whenever she's doing a gig. So they travel a lot with her. Um, um, Alicia Keys, if she's doing anything on that level, she hires them. Josh Groban has designated them as, you know, his Northeast region group to go to for his regional tours. So these people can really sing, you know, but check them out. And do you know what I'm talking about? I need to find out. Okay. Any other questions? I really appreciate you guys hanging out, and I will wait for a few more questions. And if not, we will end the stream. But I do appreciate you guys coming back after that little fiasco with the thing. Oh, I do have a question. Someone just came in. Let me check my comments again. Someone said I'm an old geezer, so I'm okay. Let's talk, man. I'm an old geezer, so I'm used to being pretty isolated. A lot of people don't visit us old folks like they did when we were young. I live alone, so I always have something to do that I need to do. Oh, no, 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 no. I'm sorry. Please don't think I had coronavirus. No, I'm sorry. No, thank God. No, I don't. But hey man, listen, yeah, reach out, man. Reach out. Anytime you want to shoot me, my information is up on my page. And yeah, young people, if you're tuning in, reach out to the older folks, man. There's a lot of wisdom there. You know, I'm getting up in age now, and I had mentioned in the previous video how I surround myself with younger people because somebody gave me a chance, and I got to pass the torch on, man. You know, and you're gonna do the same when you get older, and then that's how you keep the cycle going. But because like folk retire or may not be as active in the business like they used to, don't write them off, man. Sit at their feet. You know, Quincy Jones is not the only guy that I mean, although he's a wealth of information and knowledge, but everybody does not have access to Quincy Jones, you know. But don't write folk off that may not be active in the business, and you visit someone and you see that they have this history of their life in the business. Pick their brain. Pick their brain. There's a lot of wisdom there, man. You know, and that's why, like I said, you know, I'm careful to surround myself with people younger than myself because eventually I'm going to not walk away from this thing, but I'm not going to be as active, you know. So, and he said, thanks for all that I do for your followers. Listen, man, it's both ways, man. I really appreciate you saying that, honestly. I live alone, so I always have something that I need to do. Tune in, brother. I'm here. Tune in. And reach out. If you're able to email, shoot me an email. You know, I'll never forget. I was a kid at AES, and it's always stuck with me. Al Schmidt. He gave a forum. You know how they do the panel discussions, and he was on the panel, and he was real cool. Who was a big, I won't say the name because today is Sunday, but he was a real pompous jackass. I found out Bruce Swedian was a total jackass. He was on the height of the Michael Jackson thing. You couldn't tell him that his crap didn't stink, and he was very standoffish. But Al Schmidt, after the forum, who was Al Schmidt, Ed Cherney, Bruce Swedian, not Tony Maserati, it was somebody else on the panel. But they, you know, these are guys that were at the top of their game at the time. The only one that was nice, that was approachable, and that said at the time, I mean, the only way you could reach out to these people is if you wrote them a physical letter. There was no real email, if you will, was Al Schmidt. He was like, listen, man, it's about each one teach one. He's like, anytime you want to reach out, shoot me in. If any way I can help. He was the only guy. And at the time, Al Schmidt was at the top of his game. But to be able to reach out to people, man, you know, is indispensable. You know, don't write people off. Don't write folks off. You know, your older folks is a wealth of information and knowledge for younger people. I know a lot, and I come across a lot of young people today that act like they know it all. They got themselves a Pro Tool system, and you can't tell them nothing. Right? Don't fool yourself. Don't fool yourself. I've been doing this a long time, and even I don't know everything. Okay. So as long as you remain open, you remain teachable. But as we get older, we're supposed to continue to fill ourselves with knowledge. You know, so that's why I'm careful to surround myself with younger people and to reach out. And when I don't know something, to someone who might. It's that simple. So yeah, man. I don't know your name, but please do. JP Dink, Denk. please do send me a message, man, so we can communicate one-on-one. I'd like that. I'd like that because it means a lot to me that you're taking time out of your day, as all of you are taking time out of your day to spend it with me, you know? And I have followers all over the world, so that's important, you know. Our communicating and being able to interact with one another via YouTube is to me indispensable. So I really appreciate that. I look forward to more content. I always like to learn more about tracking vocals. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Tracking vocals is a tightrope walk, especially if the vocalist got poor mic technique. Like I'm fortunate enough to work with some people who can know how to work a mic. But you get some people, good God, good Lord, man, I got nightmare stories. That's a whole nother stream, you know, a whole other stream. Folks that get up in here thinking they can sing, and it's like, nah, you need to put that back in. Woo! Good God Almighty. I ain't gonna call no names. But I mean, if they spending their money, you know, I mean, there are times for those people that I encounter that struggle in the area of hearing themselves on a mic, or they hire me because they have an idea that they want to bring to fruition. I approach it this way. I always approach it this way. I will tell them that the way they hear themselves in a room and the way they hear themselves over the cans is two different ways. That's point number one. You know, if they're struggling, I always point them in the direction because, listen, I went to music school, and my mentor, you know, who was once upon a time the department head of the school that I attended, said to me, everyone is born with an instrument. That instrument is your voice, and all voices can be trained to how to properly sing. I blew that off in the beginning of my years in music school, and I've come to realize that that is in fact, true. Because I learned to sight sing, solfege, as well as my ability to sing to hand out parts has gotten better. So everyone is born with an instrument that they can train to be a better instrument. Training between a voice and any other instrument is no different. You must practice. And when you're in music school, that's what you do. You practice all the time. You know, so everyone can be a better musician, and you can train your voice to be better, you know. But occasionally you'll get people in the studio that think that their ambient voice and the voice coming across a mic or two, there's going to be one and the same. And when they hear that, it's like a shock to them. And the shock does not yield to a better performance, because that's what you need to bring out of the material, a performance. So it's always a pleasure for me when I get in the studio with someone like a Melody Ray, that you could put up a microphone, or an April Peters, if you get a chance to listen to her music on iTunes. These are people I hire. And April was one of the, and Fila James. These are people that I had hired a lot when I was doing a lot of demo work and things for clients of that nature. Because you put the mic up and they can sing and it's done. They had good mic technique and they were talented, and they understood how to make those adjustments based on circumstances in the studio. Everybody can't do that. And that's what separates really talented musicians from musicians with talent that think they know how to get the job done. There's a huge difference. Studio recording and performance is so much different from live performing. You cannot bring the ideology from one into the other, and vice versa. You know, watch Dave Weckl play in the studio. Watch Dave Weckl play live. Two different guys. Watch him play in an acoustic situation. Watch him play with the electric band. two different situations. Those adjustments by quality musicians always know how to make those adjustments because every circumstance is going to call for a different sort of approach, if you will, you know. So yeah, recording vocals is a talent, you know, and to be able to nuance it, you know, as an engineer is and finesse it is also a talent. Take it from people like Al Schmidt. Um, I look forward to more content tracking. But that's a big thing now. If they're spending money on tracking session, the professionalism as an engineer is a priority. Yeah, I mean, I think the most painful thing, and I get people. I have friends of mine that run somewhat commercial operations and private operations as well that will take money from anyone, you know, and not yield the truth. They look at people like cash cows. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to live with yourself if you're making that as your decision. But there's a couple of things with me. I don't like my time being wasted, and I'm very honest with the person. I mean, if why should you pay me $75 an hour if you don't have a modicum of talent? And I won't say it in that fashion, but it's like I will tell you, I think your money is better spent with a vocal coach than trying to be a vocalist in the studio. And here's why. Why lie to people just because they're paying the check? No, that's wrong. It's just wrong on so many levels. I mean, from a character perspective, as well as from a professional perspective, you shouldn't abuse people and use people as cash cows if you're calling yourself a pro, you know, because that material is being released to the world. With SoundCloud, everybody got a SoundCloud account. So they know that they're going to be like, oh, I did this session at Pookie and them studio. And then here come Pookie. Be like, what? I ain't going. You put out stuff like that, and then you're going to want to go get a pro gig with somebody. No, I heard what you did with so-and-so and them and wasn't quality work. So, nah, you got to be careful what you're putting your name to, you know. Yes. Do you recommend learning Pro Tools? I am a Logic man. Yes, yeah. Yes. I mean, if you're starting out and this is the thing. If you intend to work professionally in this business, you got to know all of them. You got to have good facility. You have to have the best facility with Pro Tools. I mean, being quick. Them keyboard shortcuts, you got to know them. Got to know them. Because if someone pulls you into a session, they're looking for that speed. Time is money, period, in a pro situation. So Pro Tools stands at the top. Logic is running a very close second. Now, unfortunately for me, now I'm stepping out from underneath the covered wagon here. I started on Pro Tools 3. I learned Vision a little bit back in the day. Cubase, I loved because it was a very flexible program. I got over to a friend of mine, Glendora Reed, who was another good vocalist. She introduced me to Notator, which turned into Logic. I learned Logic. So, I mean, I had good facility with all of them. Now, Cubase is still going strong, and the interface is still the same. Logic is still, you know, a decent door, but Pro Tools reigns supreme around the world. And don't forget, you might wind up doing client work around the world. America ain't the only place that's using Pro Tools. So you have to learn them all. If you want to survive, you got to learn them all. You got to be able to say, yes, I can. Because folks are looking for people who can do them all. And you may not have great facility on all of them, but at least know the flow to get signal in and out. As long as you can do that, you'll be fine. But Pro Tools, you must know. You must know. Followed a very close second by Logic. Yes, and you could get Pro Tools what first for free. So I mean, to learn these things is excuse me, it's nothing. You know what I mean? It's costing you nothing to learn. You could spend time with it. If it's not your main door, then you could just download Pro Tools first and learn how to get stuff in and out of it. Learn those keyboard shortcuts because that's important. Ain't nobody got time for you to be mousing around and let me go to this menu. No, click, 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 click. You got to be fast, man. Sacramento is in the house. What are your recommendations on joining a music publisher in order to pitch your songs? Okay, now, joining a music publisher or being um, offered a publishing arrangement are two different things. If someone is asking you to pay them money to join something, don't do it. Period. It's a scam. It's a scam. However, there are a litany of publishers around the world. It depends on the genre of music. You will do a better job making your own publishing company for a variety of reasons and pitching them in that way versus joining a group of people or a circumstance where folks claim they can pitch your material. You're in Sacramento, okay? I'm telling you, you're in I mean, I'm not sure. I know California pretty well. I think Sacramento is Northern California. Correct me if I'm wrong. I might be wrong because I have a whole lot of people in the LA area. But you're in a place where you can get music to people quick. It's just a matter of knowing who to get the music to. You're in a good situation. If you were in Appleton, Wisconsin, or some other remote place, different story. You would have to move to a place like Nashville or New York in order to reach these people in a more personable way. Because I mean, you could reach out to folks by sending them material or check out my SoundCloud, et cetera, et cetera. But it's still a community of folks that you gotta know. You gotta know who to get this stuff to. You gotta know who knows whom. It's still very grafted in, if you will. You still have to have people. I'll give you a perfect example. Um, Someone I work with a lot, Ruben Singleton, whose career is now just starting to really, really blow up. Um, he knew a lot of people who are now facilitating his ability to blow up. That being Teddy Riley. You know, I'm in New York. I see a lot of these people at either events or functions or whatever the case may be. You got to be where the watering hole is still. So don't let nobody fool you. Either you're going to take command of your career in some kind of way, or you're going to have to move to a place where people you can rub shoulders with these folks so that you can have a direct connection to where you want to go. It's a stepping stone situation. So that is a necessity, if you will. um you I know everyone thinks that because you can interact on the internet, that is an end all be all, and in some respects it may be, but you have to be marketing savvy to know how to use the internet to your advantage for a career. There are people who are that savvy. The internet is and the ability to reach out in a way that is easier has come of age, if you will. You know, that same circumstance was not afforded many years ago. You needed all these moving parts. You had to do the record, hire a publicist, hire a radio promoter. You had to schedule the tour or had a concert promoter or had a booking agent. It was so many people with their hands in the pot. You know, to say that you were going it alone was almost an impossibility. But now you got folks out here scamming people. Pay me $150 and I will evaluate your song. Really? Come on now. Paying somebody $100 for some nonsensical foolishness. Listen, it's song form is song form. An AABA song is an AABA song. You got all these examples of good material that's been written throughout the years. That's your point of reference. Now, technical sound wise is a different story, but song form is song form. Period. You know, singer songwriter stuff is singer songwriter stuff. Period. You know, so um, to join these publishing pools and these people who call themselves like Taxi and all these other folks that evaluate your music. I don't know. You have to be very, very careful, very, very careful, because folks are scamming people nowadays, taking folks' money and promising them careers. Do your due diligence. Connect with some folks. And nowadays, to be able to connect with people in the industry is easier. You can always shoot someone an email, and ask them for advice on whatever the case. And some people will reach back and say, yeah, send the material. Inquire whether or not they're receiving submissions. You can find out who Beyonce's people are. If that's your goal, to reach her, you can find that. The information is readily available on the internet somewhere. You got to know which rocks to look under. But you might discover you found the rock. Oh, snap. She is Beyonce's what? And you pitch that way. There's always a way. There's always a way. But joining stuff, and like I said, people are just fleecing folk nowadays, and it's wrong. It's just wrong. It depends on the genre of music that you are doing, first and foremost. Some genres are apparently, and for obvious reasons, more competitive than others. You have to take that into consideration. You have to take into consideration, and you must be your own worst critic in terms of quality, in terms of musicianship. Only you know how skilled a musician you are. Where you're weak, you have to find out someone that can strengthen those weaknesses. Period. There's just no other way around it. Now I'm giving you my music school hat now. Harmony, melody, rhythm, texture, and form. It's the same across every genre. Used in different ways, but it remains harmony. I mean, the 505 in E flat is the 505 in E flat, regardless of genre. How are you employing these chord progressions? You have to ask yourself that question. Only you know. You have to know where if you're not strong in theory, I'm gonna tell you, people like McCartney and John Lennon and the Beatles, they weren't the group of guys that got together and decided to strum. And you know how skilled musicians they are? David Bowie. Some of these musicians are highly educated. God rest his soul, David Bowie. But these are highly educated musicians. Steely Dan, Donald Fagen, Walter Becker, these guys are skilled. Michael McDonald, skilled. There are people who just have talent. They have a depth and wealth of knowledge as to how to put music, what is making this song work. And nowadays, the stuff that is available, like this guy, Adam Neely, look him up on YouTube. A young kid, a master's degree from the Manhattan School of Music, killing on YouTube. Smart. I mean, he reminds me of these, nerdy like guys I went to school with who are like music theory geeks. Now, I know a little something. I knew enough to get me out of school and to pass my juries to get the degree in music. But this guy, Adam Neely, is a genius. He's like 28 years old. The other guy, if you look up Adam Neely, look him up. He takes all these pop songs and does rearrangements of them. He's a genius. He's a graduate of the Manhattan School of Music. He's a genius. Lives here in New York. He is a genius. He's giving you the ability to tap into his depth and wealth of knowledge from the perspective of pop music. That is available on YouTube. You know how many tens of thousands of dollars people are paying for Berkeley College of Music Education, a Manhattan School of Music Education, and you're able to go on YouTube and learn theory for free? Ain't no reason why nobody should have weak musicianship nowadays. Harmony, melody, rhythm, texture, and form. Those are the 5. You master those, the world is your oyster. And you may not get paid $1 million to do it. But they said in order to have a successful music career, if you could have 100 faithful followers, 100 fans is all you need. If you got 100 patrons paying you, supporting you through Patreon and other varying means that now the web has afforded, you can survive. But no, everyone wants to be Beyonce. I always use the top of the pit. This is where Beyonce is. She's at the very top. The top is narrow. Everybody cannot stand on the top. But if your goal is to survive, guess what? All that stuff is in the middle. All that money is in the middle. Master this area. Get good at what you do. And guess what? You won't, I mean, people will naturally just turn to what it is that you have to offer. Naturally. If you're sharing your music in your locale, right? Wherever you are in Sacramento, you do coffee houses. And every Wednesday night, you doing your thing. You doing your thing. The crowd turns from 6 people. Next week is 12 people. The week after that, you got 25 people. Word's starting to get out. Your stuff is killing. So now you got a capacity crowd at this coffee house. The people down the street running their little tea room. Oh, can you do a gig? Now you can command, give me a couple of $100 for a 2-hour set. But we need you to do 2 sets. No problem. Give me $400. Look at how this is how it works. My wife, who was before she started teaching in private school, she's a private school teacher now. She teaches science. Her career was, she was a music promoter. She started out working at Universal. Then she broke off and started her own radio promotion company. Had this theory, the pebble in a pond theory, the pebble in a pond. Whenever she would do things with a client. Imagine if you throw a pebble into a pond, right? And boop, as soon as it hits the water, you got rings that grow outwards. That's the same way you have to approach your career. You're going to start with the small, the things that you could get to immediately. Like you're in Sacramento. If you Google all coffee houses, like I'm just using this as an example, coffee houses in Sacramento, California, you come up with 10 coffee houses. And all 10 want to book you for at least a month at varying times. $100 a gig is $100 a gig. But as you start to develop this audience of people who appreciate your work, think about it. The demand shifts. You're putting behinds in the seats. These people are drinking up coffee, and now you can demand, Mr. Coffee House owner, I used to do for 100, but now, can we up it to 2? How can they deny you when you're the reason why the population is increasing? Think about it. So it's the same theory when you're going on a tour. Now, every artist that's new cannot go on a world tour. We know that. So what she used to do, my wife used to do like this. Okay, I'm going to get a list of all the radio stations I'm promoting to and their locales, and we're going to do a co-op advertising sort of situation. So if it's a pop artist and you want to start a tour and you're a New York artist, Where can you get to in 4 hours or less if you got to load the whole group into the van and go? Here's some of the places you can get to in 4 hours left or less. Philly, New Jersey, upstate New York, Boston area, New Hampshire, Connecticut. If you break a few laws, Delaware, Northern Maryland. But you're speeding at that point. But look at how you just shaped the whole region. You now have this whole region by virtue of being in relationship with these radio stations that are in these regions. So you got to take control of what you can get to. It's the pebble in the pond theory. What can I get to? Who can I get to in 2 hours? 4 hours, 6 hours. Of course, now you're stretching the region that 8 hours. Can I be in Florida in 24 hours? You understand? So, I mean, it depends on who you're trying to reach on the whole. You know, you can't do a world tour. When you start out, you have to do a regional tour. You know, you have to know what the logistics are in terms of putting together a tour. You know, because every tour doesn't require you having to make stops along the whole eastern seaboard. It doesn't. You know, so to answer I know that's a long, spiel about something about reaching out to music publishers, but when you're in any career, you got to take control of your destiny, if you will. Like, where are you going with this thing? Even audio engineers, I want to make beats. What? Do you realize beats don't keep the lights on? That there are people that need television engineers, television editors, technical people behind the scenes in television, local markets, international markets, web perspectives in terms of, like I said, media is a growing business. So to have this little narrow perspective as to where your career is going, to me, is foolish. It's foolish. I'm a musician first. And the whole technical thing with the studio came out of me. I started out writing lead sheets for people. Excuse me. And lead sheets at what, $50 a page. Then it turns out, well, can I record here? And then I bought a portable studio, and then I started writing and arranging for people and things like that. It just blew up into what it is today. But I was cognizant of where I was going with my career, to this day. And I've seen a lot of folks pass through and know a lot of people that have had successful rides and, are having successful runs in this business. But I was always cognizant that the top triangle is very small on the pyramid. Everybody passes through the middle. Everybody starts at the bottom, goes through the middle to the top. So if I could give the experience of professionalism in the middle and be the guy, that's the whole idea, So, Sean, reach out, to folks in your locale. If you're a performer, you got to perform. You got to go out. You have to introduce your music to the world. April, look up April Peters on iTunes. One of the she's done tons of demos for me throughout the years, and even did a lot of background work for me as well. When she was a new artist. You know what she used to do? She did she would book herself as a backyard artist, and she would purposely schedule her tour dates for the summer because people are having barbecues. She would go out to malls and introduce herself. Here's my CD and it's what I'm selling. Some people buy it and then, oh yeah, well, I'm having a barbecue. I do backyard barbecues. Can you come through and sing for my birthday party or whatever the case may be? Sure. $300 for the afternoon. $300 is quite a sum of money if you got a 5-month booking tour. That's you got to take control of your destiny. She did. And she came to me and she was like so concerned about how to be received, what her approach was. And the tendency was to, you know, because I know you, I'm going to lean on you. I was like, no, I kicked her out the nest. Ding, get out. She found herself a producer. She took control of her record is killing. Top producers out of Philly, killing. And I'm glad that she didn't do it with me because it's easy to attach yourself to the familiar. But if you want to know what you're made out of, you got to venture out. Will you always succeed? No. But show me a person who always say, how's the saying go? Show me a person who has always succeeded, and I'll show you a person who has never tried anything. You got to fail. You got to fall flat, because when you fall flat, you know what didn't work. You know not to repeat that. But as an independent artist, you got to take control of your future, man. So, Sean, I hope that information was helpful. Feel free to reach out. I got 1,000 more stories just like that one, including one very, very successful, extremely successful record label that started out, that I watched grow from the person's living room into one of the major, including having one of the most major artists, one of the major artists in the hip hop industry. Started in their living room, blew this label up into boom. Okay, so everybody starts at zero. No one arrives on the top. I hope this information was helpful. I really appreciate you guys tuning in, and feel free to reach out. Feel free to reach out. You know, any way I can help. You know, whether it's technically or information with regards to the industry. I've been around a lot. I've seen a lot. And what I don't know, I can always point you in the direction. Like in the case of people looking for background singers, Terrence Talley is the guy. Terrence is the guy. You know, so thanks for stopping by. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you guys, and stay safe. Please avoid crowds if you can. Keep your family safe. I don't have coronavirus. If that was a mistake, I'm sorry if my thumbnail misled anyone. But no, thank God my family is well. I've had a few cancellations this week, but you know, that's to be understood. And thanks for tuning in, guys. I really do appreciate it. I do enjoy spending this time with you. So until then, or till next time rather, take care.